You're sharing a microphone, as is everybody, so make sure you do that. It's your turn.
No, actually. Test 5, 6, 7, 8. 5, 6, 7, 8.
No, yours is not up. Thanks, Doug.
All good?
Yep.
All good? Okay, let's get started.
Let's do it.
Good evening and welcome to our Candidates Forum of the 2015 political season, sponsored by Georgia Public Broadcasting, GPB Savannah, Savannah Morning News, and savannahnow.com. My name is Bill Kelso. I'm the moderator for this evening's forum. All told, when we finish this forum, we will have had 6 sessions today. Of course, this session is the final forum for the Mayoral contest. The format, which everybody should be aware of, will consist of a 2-minute opening statement from each one of the candidates, and then questions from our panelists, who I will introduce in just a minute. And then another 2-minute closing statement, again, from each one of these candidates. Please remember that when a question is asked, the candidate will have 1 minute to respond. I would like to remind the candidates that this is a forum where ideas and views on particular issues can be exchanged. This is not intended to be a formal debate. So my role is to keep the exchange of ideas and views flowing within the parameters of the forum. We ask you as an audience to please keep noise to a minimum. Please turn off your cell phones, or at least put them on silent mode. And remember to be courteous if you need to come and go from the auditorium. As a reminder, we are streaming live video to savannahnow.com and recording sound for podcasts to be available at gpb.org/Savannah. Our panelists this evening is Tanya Milton, who is Vice President of the Savannah Tribune. Tanya, good to have you with us. And Gabrielle Ware, who is a host for All Things Considered and a reporter for GPB Savannah. Welcome to you both. And again, each panelist will ask candidates questions, and candidates will then answer again with a 1-minute response. Susan Catron from Savannah Morning News will be our timekeeper, and during each phase, you may want to keep an eye on her, because she'll give you a 5-second heads up before your time is up. Okay? So with that, and we'll start with Mr. Deloach, and we'll work our way down. Oh, actually, I've got one more thing to do, which is, of course, to introduce our candidates. My apologies. Our candidates this evening are mayoral candidates. We have with us this evening Mr. Eddie Deloach. We also have the incumbent, Mayor Edna Jackson. We also have Mr. Murray Silver with us this evening. And finally, Mr. Lewis Wilson. Welcome to you all. And so with that, we will start with opening comments. Again, 2 minutes. Mr. Deloach, please proceed.
Good evening. My name is Eddie Deloach, and I love this city. I'm here because our city's in a crisis. I'm here because there's 30 families somewhere in Savannah who've lost a father, a mother, a daughter, or a son. I'm here because our citizens are afraid to go out at night. And I'm here because our city has no plan for the future and no vision for the future. Great cities must have a vision. And our city can be great. But failed leadership has led to runaway crime, tremendous waste, and absolutely no vision on how to get us out of this mess. Our current mayor has been on council for 16 years, 4 of them as mayor. I'll ask you tonight, how do you think we're doing? Well, I've had enough. And I'm here to ask you for your vote tonight. If you give me the opportunity, I can lead this city to greatness with your help. I just need your help. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Deloach. Mayor Jackson, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon. First, let me thank you for having us out here today. I'm Edna Branch Jackson, presently serving as your mayor and asking for a new term. I'm a native of Savannah, a graduate of the public school system, and also a graduate of Savannah State with both a BS degree and a Master's of Political Science education. I've been a civil rights activist in this community since I was 17 years old, having traveled throughout the South, Alabama, Mississippi, and Florida. But my passion has always been involved in politics and getting other people elected. When I was chosen, when I was asked to serve for alderman, I said no, but then I said yes, because I want to see the Savannah to continue to move, to make sure that during the days of the Civil Rights Movement, we protested to bring our community together, a united Savannah. And that is what I wanted to do in city government, and that is what I believe I've been able to do in city government. I serve on the board of the National League of Cities, on the Georgia Municipal Association that plans for cities and advocate for cities. I serve as the first vice president, and next year when they meet in our city, I will be made the president of the organization. I worked at Savannah State College University for 30 years. I was an administrator. I have worked all over the campus. One of the things that happened in 1971, when they started the busing of the schools, I went into the public school system and organized our young people because they were fighting each other. Thank you, and I will continue later.
Thank you, Mayor Jackson. Mr. Silver, please, sir.
For the past year, on a daily basis, I have been running for mayor of Savannah, and I was the only announced candidate right up until qualification at the end of August. I was stunned. I thought there'd be a dozen people running for mayor this time around. After all, with all the complaints you hear, and also many unhappy people. And I was amazed that nobody else wanted to join the race. People smarter than me, people who would make better candidates, said to me, I wouldn't have that job for any amount of money, much less the $47,000 they scraped together to pay the man. And they told me, this city is broken in places that can't be fixed. And I was amazed. I believe that we should allow for the process. I believe that every incumbent should have to stand and defend and explain their record. I even endorsed other people's candidacies. I begged other people to run. Nobody wanted the job. So, ladies and gentlemen, if I don't sound like a professional politician, it's because I am not one. I've never run for office before. And if at times I get a little agitated and my voice rises, it's because I'm trying to express the anger, fear, and frustration of the thousands of people that I've talked to over the past year. Because everybody I talk to is mad about something and they're scared of something. And that's a bad combination. Now, maybe the things they're mad about and scared about are different, but in the end, they're mad and they're scared, and that's a bad combination because when you're mad and scared, you don't think clearly. and that's why you're electing me. At other times, some of my questions, my answers may seem like they are confused, and that's because the situations we're talking about are confusing, and that too is by design. So I'm all about accountability, I'm all about transparency. That's what I'm doing here. And remember this, I'm not running against Edna Jackson, I'm running for mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Wilson, please.
Hello, fellow Savannahans. My name is Lewis Wilson. I was born and raised on the west side of Savannah, near Fairwood Homes. Went to kindergarten in Fairwood Homes. Arch, kindergarten. I went to elementary school in Fairwood throughout 5th grade. And did Earl Smith, Scott, Mercer, every school on the west side. Went to Groves, played football with Eddie at Groves. And immediately after high school, I enlisted to hike the Vietnam War in the Air Force. I did some traveling around the world, went to Japan, quite a few other places. Ended up discharging and moving to Washington, D.C., where I went to the University District of Columbia, majored in economics and finance, and business disciplines. Returned to Savannah, went to work, I went to Savannah State, majored in the same thing, economics and finance. I ended up with the Sheriff's Department, night manager for YMCA in Havisham Woods, where I put the Havisham Woods Y into the black for the first time in the history of that YMCA. I own my own real estate company now. I did the solar development to the people that built the food line here in Garden City. Solar development where they're building a 15-acre subdivision on Big Hill Road in Garden City. Solar property, Savannah Tire and Rubber Company. And I've done various consultings in and around Savannah and Garden City, Chatham County. The reason why I got involved in this race is because I was having some problems.
Time, Mr. Wilson. Thank you. Thank you, sir. So with that, we turn it over to our panelists who will begin the questions. So if you will, first question, please.
Good evening. Your first question is, according to the Savannah Chamber of Commerce, the city tax revenue from hotel room taxes alone has surpassed over $20 million as of 2014. As mayor, what would you do with these revenues to better, how would you allocate these revenues to better the citizens of Savannah?
So with that, then I will bounce it around a little bit. I'd like to start with Mr. Wilson. You will begin.
Well, first of all, if I understand the question correctly, you're speaking to a tax that funds Visit Savannah, enables them to do the incredible job that they do. That being said, tourism also, in addition to the taxes it generates more than $2 billion a year in income. And I've been trying to figure out where this money goes, because we've got thousands of people working in the hospitality industry that are making $8 an hour. There are people that are making up beds for $4 a room. These people are making up beds they'll never be able to afford to sleep in. And so if it was me, as the mayor of Savannah, Georgia, I'd have to go back to these hoteliers and say, listen, at a certain point you got to pay these people a living wage because it's a sin that they live the way that they do.
Thank you very much. Mayor Jackson, please.
With $20 million, one of the first things, because of the crime that we're having in our community, I will see that some of the funds go into our police department in order for us to buy those things, the equipment, the cars, and what have you that we need, and to assist our chief to get whatever he feels that he needs in order to help us in this crime area. I will also take some of the funds and see what we can do with our young people. It is about our young people, helping them to understand that they may have a bump in the road, but they can flatten that bump out, and to help them to get jobs, to help them get training. Our summer youth program this summer was very effective because we took the at-risk kids and we gave them jobs throughout our city. good jobs, and they did outstanding things. Those are just two of the things that I was working with.
Thank you. Mr. Wilson, please, sir.
I think that we definitely have a crime problem. But I think that it's more caused by socioeconomic conditions rather than just one group of people being inherently criminal. So what I propose to do with some of the funds, I've noticed myself that some of the community centers where they're supposed to be teaching young kids how to use computers and that various kind of thing are not being used because when I go there to check on them, they tell me that, well, we're not funded, we don't have enough funds to be open but 1 or 2 hours a day or whatever they do there. So I would put better funds to that, and I think that we should have economic impact zones for areas that are disenfranchised, like on the west side of Bay Street, there's a 20 to 40,000 square foot building that's sitting there that needs
It's time, Mr. Wilson. Thank you very much, sir.
So we got 1 minute, right?
Yes, 1 minute. Mr. Lord, please.
Okay. Visit Savannah. Visit Savannah needs to continue to be funded as Visit Savannah. We don't need to take money from it to pay for the police. We don't need to take money from it to pay for anything else. We need to have a long-term plan in place, and we need to, but we've got the budget in place to take care of the police officers. All we need to do is increase the number of police officers that are on staff. We do not have enough police officers on staff. That's the issue. But we have a budget in place to take care of that. Visit Savannah Fund should stay there. It should not be moved around. Neither should we take money from Park and Service to pay for a fairground. We should not be robbing banks of money from one place and moving it to another. We need to continue to take the money and use it as it appropriated originally, which is Parks and Service.
Thank you. Just as a reminder for the next question that each question 1 minute, and if there's a rebuttal, then 20 seconds.
Okay. Wait a minute, how many?
20 seconds. 20.
Okay, I'm sorry. The money that we get from the tourism is something that we get from the room charges, and it is set aside for city uses and for us to do those things so that we will not have to go up on the property taxes here in our community and put them to good use. And the fire department would be good. I'm sorry, the police department would be good to use. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Sure. I got it.
Do you have a rebuttal?
Yes.
20 seconds.
20 seconds. How do you keep $20 million around just to do what you think might be necessary? I mean, I just don't see how you keep $20 million sitting around and say, let's just, let's go buy some fairground. Or let's go add a few more police cars. Why didn't we buy the police cars? We don't have enough police cars. Why not take the $20 million and buy police cars so our people can ride to where they need to go?
Time. Thank you, Mr. Doyle. Next question, please.
Many of the candidates running for council have said there's not necessarily a need to hire outside consultants for city projects. My question to you is, as mayor, how would you lead that effort to make sure your city council staff is qualified to perform the duties that would typically be done by a consultant if you decide to keep it in-house?
Mr. Wilson, will you please lead off, sir? 1 minute, please.
Well, the food line development in the subdivision that I worked with in Garden City, we didn't hire a consultant. I pretty much did most of the due diligence. This is what I do. I would be more than happy to teach staff how to do that because they've been spending exorbitant amounts of money on consultants here lately. One was for the, in particular for the Civic Center. I went to a meeting the other day, which was the second meeting that was supposed to take place, and they have heard nothing from this consultant that they gave $150,000 to a good while back that I went to city council to oppose until we found out furthermore what he was going to provide for us. But I went to the second meeting and they haven't, I don't think that, Mr. Shearhouse tells me that they haven't heard from this guy, that he's somewhere on the beach in California. So I personally, I would try to instruct staff on how to do diligence.
Thank you very much. Mr. Deloach, please. 1 minute. Repeat the question. Please repeat the question.
I said many of the candidates running for city council have said there's not necessarily a need to hire outside help, consultants, for city projects. How would you as mayor lead the effort to make sure your city council staff is qualified to perform the duties that a consultant would typically perform?
First of all, there's nothing wrong with hiring consultants. The issue we have is when you don't use the consultant's information to do anything. You cannot hire a consultant and put the information on a shelf. You have to take the consultant's information and do something. That's the issue we have with the city of Savannah. We hire consultant after consultant to look at something, but if it doesn't say what we want it to say, then we basically put it on the shelf and say, well, let's get us another one. Let's see if we can get another outcome here, because this one here is not working the way we think it ought to work. So my thought would be, we can use consultants in a manner that needs to be, we need to use them, because there is some experts there that you can't train somebody to do that. But do something with what you get, the information you receive. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Deloach. Mayor Jackson, please.
Yes. I am for hiring consultants in those areas where we may feel we need some expertise, particularly in the areas of engineering, planning, the kind of buildings that we need here in our community. I am against hiring consultants to do some things, and I would like to use a little bit of our time. I know there was only one program that we did not go along with the consultant's recommendation, but other than that, we've always worked with them. We have planned with them, and they have helped us to move.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Silver, please.
The answer to your question begins and ends with the city manager. A city manager should never have to spend taxpayer money to hire an outside independent firm to tell her what she should have already known. And I'm thinking in particular of the police department. When the department began to unravel, Stephanie Cutter had to find someone else to come down here and tell her why. And in some cases, we're telling her things she already knew and did nothing about. Secondly, I'll point out to you that if you've ever watched city council at work, when the city manager is asked to weigh in on something, she's often let down by her staff. And I feel sorry for Ms. Cutter, because she continues to protect and employ people who are not doing their job. But as city manager, that's also her function. So to answer your question, it begins and ends with the city manager.
Thank you. 20 seconds, please.
When we hired somebody to look into the police department, it was because we wanted to be open and transparent and not do it within. We went to a national organization to do that, and we did the right thing because we got results for the money that we had to spend on that, and I do not regret making that decision.
Thank you, ma'am. Next question, please.
There are over 4,000 homeless people here in Savannah. These people are sleeping in parks, they're sleeping under the bridges, on the ground. As mayor of Savannah, what solution do you propose to address the homeless people currently living in Savannah going forward?
Mayor Jackson, please, we'll begin
Yes.
in 1 minute, please.
We fund the Homeless Authority, who operates all of the homeless facilities, or they are the conduit through which the funding goes through. But I also think that we need to work with them with the plans as they're talking about developing what they call small houses. I've also been to the Home Depot Foundation to try and they have a program specifically for veterans, housing for veterans, to see if we can get a grant. One is being planned at this time. It was supposed to be done by the Step Up program, but we ran into some complications. So now the Homeless Authority is going to be doing that because we do have too many people on the street. But you know, I go and I talk to them. and they want more and more services, and that is what we're trying to do. One of the things that you may not know is that other cities drop their homeless in our community. So we're taking care not only our own, but others as well.
Thank you very much. Mr. Wilson, please, sir.
Well, homelessness is definitely a problem. I've worked with a lot of people that, vagrants. I've hired a lot of them because most of my labor came from the rail, so I have pretty good rapport with most of those guys down there. I'm having a problem with homeless people next to me. It's on another piece of property the city purchased back in 2005. And they just tore the fence back down for the second time so they could get back to their part of the woods that they live in next to my house. That's this swamp that the city purchased in 2005 that they've been telling people that belongs to CSX Railroad. And so I think that a good opportunity for a place that could have been very easily converted would have been Pearl Smith School. And they knocked that down for no apparent reason. So I would be inclined to want to build some small houses.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Thank you very much. Mr. Soder.
Let me begin by sending a shout out to Cindy Kelly at Chatham Savannah Authority for the Homeless. She's doing an incredible job, underpaid, understaffed. Secondly, for those of you who think about running for office, don't bring up homelessness. The ugliest things said to me in the past year are in response to what I have written and blogged about when it comes to homelessness. Because most people I've talked to said, you know what my plan would be if I'm mayor? I'd put them on a bus, one-way ticket, and tell them not to come back. So that being said, let's agree on this. Yeah, there are some homeless people who are homeless because they made bad choices in life. And yeah, they're drug addicts and they're alcoholics and they're bums, and it's a life choice. But let me say this, can we all agree that there are veterans out there that at the very least deserve rental subsidies to get them out from under bridges and back into the game where they belong?
Mr. Deloach, 1 minute.
We as a society will be basically judged on how we treat the ones that cannot take care of themselves. There's two types that I think we have there. We have what I call the economic homeless and the chronic homeless. The economic homeless is usually the mother who has children, who's working from paycheck to paycheck, ends up slipping, maybe getting sick, can't make ends meet. All of a sudden, she's out of a house, she's out on the street, and not having an opportunity to get back on her feet. We need to make sure that we have housing in place, affordable housing in place, so that these ladies with children can get back up on their feet. That would be the first thing I would do, to make sure that we have housing in place for those children. The second one is the chronic homeless.
Thank you, Mr. Deloach. Thank you very much.
Chronic homeless.
Okay, next question, please.
Do you support the plan to remove the I-16 flyover and restore the street grid pattern as a way to revitalize Martin Luther King Boulevard and the surrounding area? And if not, do you support alternatives to revitalize that area?
Let's go ahead and start. Mr. Deloach, please.
Yes, I support it.
I grew up in that area in Currytown, and when I was in that area, we were against, I was a young child, but the residents were against that flyover coming in. The most beautiful building in our city was the railroad station. So yes, I'm against it, but I also think I know that I'm for the continued development of M.L. King Boulevard as well as Montgomery Street. For those that may not know, that area was the mecca of the African American community, and we were able to be very successful in the stores, the keepers of the stores and what have you, in that area. So yes for the first one, and yes for redevelopment.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Silver.
I think that the entryways to the largest and most beautiful urban historic district in the United States should be as beautiful as the district itself. That being said, the people have sent me here to fix the police department and do something about poverty. The flyover is not among my top concerns.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Wilson.
Yes, I suggest, and I'm kind of ridiculed for talking about my high-speed train, but I'm going to talk about it anyway.
Go ahead.
I never got to ride on the Nancy Hank, but that's what it was. That's what that spot was right there. It was the Union Station. And I'm all in favor of putting a mall back there. I'm in favor of putting a mall there that we can have a high-speed train coming from Atlanta and pull into this mall. You got a hotel here, you got shopping, you got maybe a theater and parking and a hub there for transportation to other parts of the city. And the reason why, because it's a beautiful place for it, it's an ideal place for it, the bed's already there, the right-of-way is already there, and the reason why a lot of other people decide not to talk about it is because they don't know how to do it.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Ladies, question? Next, please.
As mayor, would you consider privatizing any of the city's departments, such as fire department, sanitation?
And I'm going to assume that's not a yes or no that you would like to.
Yeah, I'd like for you to say, when in answering the question, I don't know how to.
Okay, Mr. Silver, would you begin, sir?
The sole reason for privatization is it's a cost-cutting measure, when it's done right. Unfortunately, in most cases, it isn't done right. And privatization more often ends up as a sneaky way to outsource jobs. The people of Savannah need jobs. I'm not in support of privatization.
Mr. Wilson, please, sir.
No, not for those particular services. I'm looking at the privatization of the school bus drivers, and I don't think that went over very well. So I don't think that I would support privatization because they just haven't shown me to be very adept at handling situations as they should be handled, as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you. Mr. Deloge, 1 minute, please, sir.
I support privatization in some areas. My business is built on privatization. Every business needs to be competitive. It doesn't matter if it's a city, the county, it doesn't matter what it is. Police, I don't see where you privatize that. Fire, I don't see where you privatize that. But when it comes to any construction, anything along that line, I think that all opportunities should be given to anybody to have an opportunity to compete on that job. Small businesses depend on those type jobs to stay in business. So I support privatization if it is competitive and everything is equal.
Thank you. Mayor Jackson.
I am not in favor of privatizing. I went through the summer with the bus drivers when they had that problem of not being paid over the service. They were in my office. I was calling real estate people and everybody else. Savannah, the lights that get peaked to try and keep the people from lights going off. When you're talking about privatization, the companies will come and say they're going to do everything. But the first thing they do is cut the number of hours that these workers will work. And they lose their benefits. And they have worked for a long time to keep these benefits. I'm not in favor of that. I can't be in favor of that. Our workers have been with us for years. So why would I go and say, you know, what we were not doing was not good enough, so we're going to give it over here to this company that may make more money off of it. And I can tell you right now, even the bus drivers are still not at the level that they want to be.
Mr. Deloge, 20 seconds, please, sir.
All I can tell you is, Ms. Jackson, you are bidding out work with the city that I'm bidding on. So if that's all what you're saying is true, you would not be bidding out anything. But unfortunately, I'm bidding on some of the work that you're putting out for bid. So I don't believe that holds water.
No, 30 minutes,
Yep.
I mean, 20 seconds.
Yeah, let me just remind the panel. Mr. Deloach, I'd like to remind the panel, this isn't a debate, this is a forum, so please, but yes, 20 seconds.
We put out those services that we do not have, people that we want to. You can't do everything with the city staff, but those large sections of our community where those people are serving us, our garbage collection, and other areas within the community where masses of our people are working, no, I would not be entitled to privatizing.
Next question, please, ladies.
This next question is first for Mayor Jackson. If reelected, how would you improve from your last term? And then to challengers, what would you do differently?
I'm not a perfect being, and I have to work with the entire city council. I've probably made some mistakes. All I can do is look and see where those mistakes are and improve upon them. But I'm committed to the people of this community, and that is what I look at when I make my decisions and work with the council. I can't give you a specific plan about how I will do certain things, because you have to remember, there are 8 people that I have to work with. And we sit down, we plan, y'all, you know, we do a 5-year plan, and we follow our plan as closely as possible. But there are times when some things may happen, like the criminology that was happening in our police department, that took us from some of the things that we wanted to do in this community. We had to focus, because we didn't need criminals within our police department.
Thank you, Mayor Jackson. Mr. Silver, please, sir.
On November 4th, the first phone call I'm going to make is to Chief Lumpkin. I'm going to fix this police department, and if that's the only thing I do, it'll be more than has been done in the past 20 years.
Mr. Wilson, please, sir.
Yes, what I would do differently is, I'm noticing a pattern of purchasing property. As real estate broker, I go in Sages and I'm looking all around. I'm pulling, sliding the map over, clicking on this property, see who owns that. I came across this property next to me, which is 12 acres. It was purchased by the city in 2005, and it is a complete swamp. Mosquito control man caught 7,000 mosquitoes over there last trip to that property. That's just too many mosquitoes to catch next to your house. Okay? So what do they do about it? What's the city doing? Van Johnson has been telling all about my neighbors there that this property belongs to CSX Railroad. CSX Railroad has been told about this, and CSX Railroad has advised them to stop doing it. Our mayor says she didn't get that email. My computer says she got it from me when I sent it to her. So that some of those things, like the 37.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Thank you very much. Mr. Deloach.
First order of business, and the most important thing that the mayor and council has to do is to provide safety for the citizens of whatever city they're in control of. That is the one thing that I'm holding an F grade right here out of the paper. That is what they graded out as far as the paper is concerned. I would make sure that would be the first order of business, would be take care of the safety of the citizens with the fire department, the police department, and the EMS. After that's said and done, I would get rid of all the wasted spending that we've had going on at City Hall over the last 4 years. Third thing I would do is develop a long-range plan that goes past tomorrow so that we can determine how we're going to spend our money and where we're going to spend our money on a long-term basis. Thank you.
I have a rebuttal.
20 seconds, please.
We don't have anything to do with EMS. Just the fire department and the police department. EMS is countywide that contracts with the county and Southside to run that service.
Thank you. Next question, please.
I understand that the city has the highest possible bond rating for a community of our size. As mayor, how do you how do we use this excellent credit rating to increase the public safety? And as the candidate, if you were mayor.
Okay. All right, Mr. Wilson, if you'll start, please, sir.
I'm not sure I understand that
Would you
question.
please restate the question?
The question is, I understand that the city has the highest possible bond rating for a community of our size, meaning that they can borrow money. So with that, how would you use this excellent credit rating to increase public safety?
Well, I'm for these economic impact areas, you know, that we could, in some of the disenfranchised areas, that we could put maybe small flea markets, like the one at Keller's Flea Market. That way you create jobs. Not only do you create jobs with each individual that has a table that's selling their wares, you take people out of the employment. They're no longer looking for jobs. So it raises wages because there's less people looking for jobs. I don't think that since we have that high of credit rating that we could use it to borrow money. I don't believe in just throwing money at things simply because you got it. So I think that we should, I don't see any reason for us to borrow any money at this point. I mean, I don't know, I haven't looked at the books, but I don't think we do. We're making pretty good money. We don't have a money problem. We have a money distribution problem, and it's causing crime.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Mr. Village, please.
I would take our bond rating and do as a suggestion that was made by one of the candidates at large. Made a good point. You can take the bond rating, you can borrow money for just about zero right now. I think it's 2% or something like that. Anyway, take that bond rating, borrow that money, and put the police officers in the cars they're supposed to be in. Buy the safety equipment that the that policemen are supposed to have in place. Do all these items that are needed for the fire department and get our people in a safe manner. And also give you an opportunity to, he pointed out, would be to recruit people. Having all these items in place would entice people to move to this area. So I would say that would be the first thing I would do with the bond rating. Also, the second thing I would do would be the Philadelphia thought that I had in mind. Philadelphia took and basically went about, I'll put that later. Philadelphia.
Thank you very much. Mr. Silver.
Yeah, well, I hate to break it to you, but we don't have to borrow money to bail out the police department. We don't have to borrow 5 cents. The Department of Justice has a program. They will give us millions of dollars to rebuild this struggling police department. All we have to do is ask.
Thank you, Mr. Silver. Mayor Jackson.
We have, thank you, we work very closely with the Justice Department, with our Attorney General that is here in Savannah from the U.S. Attorney's Office. The bond rating that we have, the two that we can borrow, it was created because we have saved this community over $8 million over the last 3 years because an interest payment. And so that helps. But one of the things, and I agree with you, I think Brian Foster has a very good idea about not using the money, but taking advantage of the bonds that we can get at a 2% rate to do some of the projects that we want to do in this area. So I'm not opposed to doing that, because after a while, the rates are going to continue to climb, and then we will be right back where we were a number of years ago. So I do think that.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, last question.
Okay, well, in that case. Okay. Each year, the City Council compiles a list of state legislation they would like to have passed. What state legislation would you push for as mayor?
Oh, I get to come first.
Can you?
Read that again, because I.
Mayor Jack, we're going to start with Mr. Deloach and we're going to work our way down.
Okay.
Would you read the question one more time
Yes.
for all the candidates?
Yes. Each year, the City Council compiles a list of state legislation they would like to have passed. What state legislation would you push for as mayor?
The one I would push forward at the present time would be the T-SPLOS program that has been directed to the county areas. The original T-SPLOS was a poor example as far as I was concerned. I voted against it because we didn't have the control I felt like we needed as a county to support it. That being said, the development they're putting together now, where it comes back to the county and the monies that are appropriated, the jobs that are determined by the people from that county, I feel like we get the legislation passed so that we can use that money here in Chatham County. I would support legislation that would give us that ability.
Thank you, Mr. Deloach. Mayor Jackson.
The T-SPLOS didn't pass in the state of Georgia because they did not do a good job of pushing it out to the people. The plan was any money that was raised in this area at a regional level would stay in this area. I voted for it, and I will continue to vote for SPLOS. The other thing is that we need to do something about our senior citizens. I was at a center this morning, and they informed me, one lady said, I don't get but $8 in food stamps. Another one said, well, I get 15. Well, what can you buy with that? So I would like to see us include on our agenda what can be done about our senior citizens in order for them to have the funds to buy food and also to get their medicines and other kind of items that are necessary for their quality of life.
Thank you, Mayor Jackson. Sir, please, sir.
When it comes to laws and legislation, I want to get my hands on the city charter, and I want to implement term limits for aldermen, because it's just impossible to get rid of these people.
Mr. Wilson, 1 minute, please, sir.
Legislation that I would like to encourage the state legislators to look at would be getting a plan to the core MPOs of various counties that my train would run on. So it's going to be a state effort. It would have to have approval through the state, and it'd have to go through each of these counties, which their MPOs would have to agree with. Given that these people are having a hard time getting back to their counties on I-16 at 5 o'clock every day, and that traffic is backed up for 10 miles, I would think that they would be more supportive of this and give us the impetus that we need to get that done. It'll provide jobs and good transportation. I think we should do it.
One more?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Time for one more question.
Well,
I know.
Sorry,
this is going to be a good one. What are some skills from your previous profession that you would transfer to being mayor and being mayor?
I will start with Mr. Silva.
Well, I've done a lot of things in life. I'm an author, I'm a filmmaker, I've been a college professor, I've owned 3 different businesses, human rights activist. In one lifetime, I have worked for everybody from Jerry Lee Lewis and Elvis Presley to Coretta Scott King and the Dalai Lama. The classic 6 degrees of separation. But the one thing, and that has very little to do with politics, but here's the thing I've learned along the way. I am a professional communicator. I can sit down and talk to anybody and we will come to an agreement at some point on something. This is what I do. I'm a communicator.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Deloach.
I'm a small businessman. I've been a small businessman for 31 years. I own a company called Tidewater Landscape, and every 2 weeks, I have to look at a guy in the face and hand him a check. I've also been a county commissioner for 8 years. So I would say, if you take the combination of the fact that I've been a county commissioner, I know how to operate inside the system of government. I'm also a businessman who's been in business for 31 years, being able to make a paycheck, being able to keep people employed, and giving people an opportunity to do better, and also giving a vision of where we want to go so that we're able to develop that. We've come a long way from when we started. We're in 9 states now, working every day, got great people with us, looking for a great opportunity.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Jackson.
What was the question, skills?
It said, what are some skills from your previous profession that you would transfer over as mayor?
I will continue to be a servant of the people. In my employment at Savannah State, that's exactly what I did with the students out there. They came to me to listen. I have more kids. I have some sitting in this room. I'm a consensus builder that work well with people. I like to mobilize people. And one of the main things is to listen to people, to get ideas, to work with them. I don't know how to say no. If you ask me what is the biggest things that I don't do, I don't say no, because I have to realize that it is in the people, and it's the work for the people that keep the city going, and I am a people person. Those are the skills that I bring.
Thank you, Mayor Jackson. Mr. Wilson, please, sir.
Yes, some of my previous training was in law enforcement. I was a deputy sheriff for almost 4 years, worked for municipal court. I had the largest bailiwick in Chatham County, served the largest bailiwick in Chatham County. And being in real estate and dealing with different construction projects and dealing with people that work on the rail, a lot of times I end up having to call the police. And I've noticed that a lot of these people are just not getting the right kind of training. They don't know how to handle situations. You end up calling the supervisor and pulling them off something else that they should be doing. So I think that I would be able to maybe conduct some sensitivity training to let some of those officers know how to deal with people a little better.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. So that ends portion of the forum in terms of Q&A. So as we begin to close, each one of you will be in 2 minutes for a closing statement. We started with you, Mr. Deloach, and we started at the other end with Mr. Wilson, work our way down and wrap this up. Mr. Wilson, please, sir. 2 minutes.
Yes, like I said, I was not really going to get into politics, but I'm experiencing a bad problem near me with this swamp thing that they bought in 2005. There's no apparent use for it. I mean, you could build some. You got homeless people living all over there already, and I rarely see them, but I do see them. So I mean, I wouldn't mind if they lived over there, if they had some small houses over there. But I understand it's completely wetland, but wetland can be mitigated in such a way that the water runs off of it, and you do have areas that you can build in. They need to put a pond in there and dig out some areas so it has the right drainage. Catching 7,000 mosquitoes is a little too much for me. And I think they need to put a pond over there, put some fish in it so they can eat these mosquito larvae. But that's the main problem that pushed me into running this, and it was compounded by the fact that our mayor and council was telling our neighbors that it belonged to CSX, so we never did get anything done about that. And Mayor said last night that it has joint ownership with CSX, that the city does. The CSX has no interest in it at all, and if the mayor would like to rebut that, I sure would appreciate it, because she said last night they have joint ownership. You want to rebut that tonight?
We're in closing.
Okay, but anyway, there's no joint ownership there. It's owned by the city. They paid $2.2 million for it, and I want them to do something with this swamp.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Mr. Silver.
Well, acknowledging where I am and who I am speaking to, my closing comment is addressed to Mr. Traynor, Ms. Catron, and Mr. Curl. And I have been running for mayor for the past year, and I've talked to thousands of people. It's surprising what people will call and tell a mayoral candidate. stories of scandals and whistleblowing and whatnot. And as a former lawyer and as a writer and a journalist, I have often recommended that they call my friends at the Savannah Morning News and tell their story. And not surprisingly, some of them say, well, I have, and they're not interested. I'd like to say to the three of you that if the Savannah Morning News did a better job of investigating and reporting the news, I would win this election in a landslide.
Jackson, 2 minutes, please.
First, again, let me thank you for having us out here. But I want you to know that this is not a job for me. This is service. You know, this is supposed to be part-time. All of you know that you see me 24/7 because of my passion for this city, because of my dedication. I care. I didn't just start caring. It started years and years and years and years ago. It started when this city was a segregated city and then became a desegregated city and then an integrated city. And I was a part of all of that. All I'm asking is that you continue me. You know, I can't run again, but continue me. But I also have another point. I want you to work with me. If you see something that we're doing wrong, then let us know. Come, I have an open door at City Hall. It is about you, the people, and we're not perfect. I recognize that we have made mistakes, but I'm all about one Savannah. I am all about a united Savannah. That is where we have to be. It is not about the north or the south or the east or the west of our city. It is about all of our communities coming together and working for the greater good of our entire city. I ask that you give me another opportunity to serve, but I will be only effective if you stand with me and tell me when I'm wrong, because I'm not perfect. Again, please vote for me on November 3rd.
3 points I want to make. 1, our safety is in question. There is no doubt in anybody's mind sitting here that our safety is in question. There have been 30 deaths. There have been over 4,000 shots. We had 5 shootings this past weekend. We have failed as a mayor and council to represent you and do the job to keep you safe. The second point is we have wasted dollars on frivolous buys of land and failed studies throughout the last administration. The third thing is we have no long-term vision for our community. We need to have a long-term vision for our community. That being said, I do need to do one other thing. Murray, I want to apologize to you. And I want you to know that our campaign does not condone any of the recent posts that have been put on social media concerning you. Okay?
Thank you.
Let's go.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Deloach. So on behalf of the Savannah Morning News, savannahnow.com, and GPB Savannah, thank you so much to our candidates. Please give them a round of applause again. I thank our panelists for being here, and to you, the audience, for participating in this forum. Remember, you will find coverage of today's forums at savannahnow.com. Tomorrow's edition of the Savannah Morning News and podcast will be on gpb.org tomorrow afternoon. Thank you all very much for being here this evening.